Hello. It's very windy out here and it's also 102 degrees. So I'm going to try my best to not die. So today I want to talk about some small business tips for artists, specifically for avoiding burnout, because I feel like I'm an expert on this topic at this point because I have been doing my art business in one way or another since I was 14 years old. I am now 25. And I've seen it all, and I've gone through so many instances of burnout. I feel like I have a pretty good grasp on like the pitfalls at this point, and I really felt compelled to share this advice for people who may be just starting out or struggling with this with their small creative business. It's a super common issue. I feel like artists are often the most vulnerable to this because it's not just a business to us, it's also like our passion and it's our hobby or what have you. It's more than just a business. We're very susceptible for getting burnt out, and I just want to give some advice today on things to do to avoid that. First of all, if you're just starting now, I just want to say that selling your art is incredible. It is such a meaningful way to spread joy in this capitalistic world. I feel like it's one of the most important things you can sell to a person is a piece of art that resonates with them and brings them joy and brings them meaning. And you should be very proud of yourself for embarking on this journey. It is not for the faint of heart, I will say. And I'm not going to try to fearmonger at all. The advice I'm going to give today is definitely realistic. And it's also coming from a very privileged place. I've been able to make a living off of my art for a very long time, and everyone's coming from a different situation. So you just take everything I say with a grain of salt. You can take or leave any advice I give here. I just am going to spitball the things that I believe are helpful. So here we go. Here are some tips I have learned about selling art since 2012. My first tip is you do not have to show up perfect, but you do have to show up. I think the perfectionists listening are going to have a very difficult time and maybe cringe at this because we want things to be absolutely perfect and our art to be at the peak level we can do. And that's just not really realistic. We're still learning, and like you can't always create like the most perfect content that you want or show up completely perfect. So that just let that go and start showing up. Show up imperfectly, post consistently, create consistently, be active in the art community consistently, even if it's not going exactly like you're not at the level you exactly want to be to start. We all start somewhere, okay? Winston, you're so cute. You're so cute back there. Oh my God. For example, here I am making YouTube content. I don't know what I'm doing at all, and I don't feel like my videos are flawlessly executed at this point. And I look at other people's art vlogs and I'm like, wow, they're so good at this. I'm never going to measure up. And like, I'd only get 10 views on my videos. Like, what's the point? I'm just going to quit. If you think about things that way, you're never going to build a repertoire with an audience. And that's, at the end of the day, it's not just about making art. It's also about selling it. And if you have no one to sell to, you don't have a business. And to have an audience, you have to be showing up in some way consistently so they can trust you, and you build that trust with your audience so then they can come to expect like, okay, this is what they do. They make ceramic, crochet sweaters, whatever it is. They won't remember you if you're not showing up consistently in some way or another. Don't let perfectionism stop you from reaching your dreams. I have a hard time with that. Kind of. My next tip is don't overpromise, but do overdeliver. And what I mean by that is you need to be realistic with expectations that you have in yourself and that you're giving to your customers. So for example, a lot of customers think that shipping these days works like Amazon everywhere. I have that issue in my shop a lot. Something to consider is that on your website or Etsy shipping time, make it a realistic range. So for example, say you make crochet sweaters and somebody messages you and is like, I love your crochet sweaters. Can you make one by my sister's birthday next week? Look realistically at what they're asking, and if it isn't in your realm to do it by that date, you need to be honest about that, because you're going to end up disappointing people and building a bad reputation if you're not realistic about expectations. So let's say you say, I cannot, but like if you still want to order it, I can get it to you as soon as I can. And let's say you do finish it in time. That is an over deliver of something you did not over promise. And they're going to be so happy by that good news that it arrived on time. And you cannot trust the postal service to ship things on time. Like sometimes hiccups happen. So you just really want to set your expectations with customers realistically, because you're not Amazon, you're a real person, and oftentimes a one person shop. Another thing you can do to over deliver and bring people a lot of happiness and a good association with your brand is, say you set a low expectation for like the ship time, but then once their package arrives, like for me, sometimes I'll add a little freebie sticker in an order, or I always add my thank you cards, and you can write for free. You can write a thank you card and have a little doodle or something. You could add a little confetti, something cheap and just like a little extra, and that's an over deliver, and they are going to remember that way better than an empty package with just no note or anything. So that's what I really recommend to do, to go above and beyond without sacrificing your mental health and also like time, because sometimes we rush to get things done and it's like not as good as we wanted it to be because we're going above our limits. My next tip is, if you are starting out with e-commerce like Etsy, Etsy is my expertise because that's what I've been using since 2018. If you're starting out on e-commerce like Etsy, really do consider printing by demand. I mean, not everybody is doing a print-based thing, but that's what my expertise is in, so that's what I'm going to say. Basically, for anything, like say you make keychains, like do not over-order too much stock before you know what the demand is. What I do is whenever I create a new design, I Photoshop the image I just drew onto my hand holding it, and you can do that with a print, Photoshop it on a wall, put it on a template, whatever you do, because you can post that without having to invest any money into creating too much stock. You just see as the orders roll in how much demand there is for that specific design. I'm going to tell you guys a little story. When I first started selling stickers, my very first design was a succulent with a little face on it, and I was like, these are going to sell like hotcakes. Okay, this was probably, oh my god, I don't know, 2016 maybe, and I ordered 500 of them from Sticker Mule. It was my first experience with stickers, and I ordered 500. I never got rid of that stock for like 3 years, and it just wasn't a popular design. And it was also like pretty rough because it was my first one, and I thought that there was gonna be all this demand for it. I really, really recommend waiting for the audience to tell you what it is that they really want. So just have examples, even if you have to order one sample. Samples are great. Order samples of things to take photos of and just get a sense of what the demand's going to be. And if you show at table events like in person, don't go crazy. Don't order 500 stickers. Order like to start a smaller amount, and just if you sell out, that's a good sign that you're doing something right, and it'll inform you for the next time that you sell at a in-person event like that. My next tip is, whatever you can outsource, do it. I feel like it's a little bit of an advanced, like if you're just starting out, you might not run into this issue for a while, but something I definitely started having an issue with a couple years in was that I was doing the work of 5 different people essentially, like all by myself. When you're first starting out and you have no money, I mean, like you have to do everything by yourself. It makes sense, and I totally get it. It might not become relevant for a while, but keep in mind there is no shame in asking for help, especially like you can outsource. You can have people in your life that are part of your community or your family or your friends. They can help you. Just ask for help, and sometimes just having someone addressing envelopes for you while you're working on other things can be super helpful. I waited way too long to do that. Think about what tasks only you can do. For example, for my business, only I can create the art for it, and only I can be the one facing the camera as the face of my brand. These are 2 things that I can't outsource, but there's so many things that I can and do outsource now. So like consider things that you are not. What are the things that your business cannot do without you? Those are some things that your business cannot do without you. And like I respond to website messages about specific like wedding stuff, but I have my assistant, she helps me respond to the Etsy messages because oftentimes they're more logistic and post office related. And I would be doing myself a disservice to be responding to each one of those messages when I could be doing things that I have to be doing as me. Asking for help is nothing to be ashamed of, and it actually helps your business grow, and it gives other people a chance to learn about the business of being a full-time artist, and also it helps bring the wealth back into your community for paying people to help you. Some things that you could outsource, but you don't have to. just things that you could are social media management, responding to Etsy messages, sorting out tax stuff, packaging orders, writing email newsletters, editing YouTube videos. Patrena, thank you. These are all things that you might need assistance with as your business grows. So just consider it can snowball quickly when you're doing it all by yourself. And some people are really like shady about full-time artists and are like, that's not a real job. But like at the end of the day, it's like several jobs and it doesn't sleep and you have to be on a lot of the time. Like you don't have a 9 to 5, you have a 12 to 12. So it can be overwhelming. And that's a thing that can cause you to burn out. So I really encourage you to think about the future and think about finding someone in your community that can assist you. My next tip is do not be embarrassed to pivot. Time is the true test to see what works and to see what doesn't work. And sometimes you don't know what that is until you try things and it doesn't work out. And you're like, oh wait, this is not what I want to be doing. Another example from my life is that in 2020, before COVID, I thought that the thing that would set me apart and make me a real artist is if I had a publicly facing studio space to have events at and to be working in. Like I wasn't a real artist if I was working at my dining table. That was a thought I had for some reason. Looking back, I'm like, why was I so judgmental of myself? So that was something that I thought was necessary, and it brought me a lot of great community opportunities, and I met a lot of people and I grew a lot because of it. But one thing that I didn't do was ever really make any art there because I am an introvert and I like to be home. I'm a homebody, and I'm most creative when I'm rotting in bed watching Netflix and creating art than I am like dressing to be in public, having to be around people and show up in a public place. Like that was actually very uncomfortable for me, and I didn't feel like 100% at my creative best. So it's not something to be embarrassed about when you have to pivot. Sometimes we change like our art style. Sometimes we change the medium we're using. Sometimes we change housing situations where we're living, and that's all okay. And like, don't feel like it's the end of the world when we pivot. It's just part of life. It's not the end ever. You can continue, just things change, and be open to that. My next tip, this is for social media burnout stuff. Share your truth online with boundaries. You can be vulnerable online, and you probably should be because people really gravitate towards honesty and authenticity, and you should connect with fans of your work online in your way. Don't give up the sanctity of your private life and too much of your true self on the internet. Keep the sanctity of your personal life separate from your business because that will burn you out so fast, I promise you. I'm a big oversharer, and this is something that gets me so in my head that I'm like, oh my God, I just need to like never show up on the internet again. So just like protect your peace, but also be authentic online. So like it's a balance. My next tip is documenting your process is not only great for your fans to be a part of and see online, but it's also a great way for you to record almost like a diary of like where you were at the time. And looking back, sometimes we're like, oh wow, I was really hard on myself back then, but I was creating great art. If you're not keeping a record of things you're making, you're going to feel sad that in the future you're like, what was I even doing then? I don't remember what trip I was on or what medium I was experimenting with. Shift your perspective from having to make perfect, beautiful Instagram feed posts looking like all the it girls, and instead just look at it like this is a scrapbook, and I'm going to look back at these perfectly imperfect posts and be super proud of myself someday, and this is part of my journey. Okay, so look at it that way when you're posting online. It really helps put less pressure on the feed of it all, and it also makes you more unique than just following trends. Trends come and go, but you are unique and you don't have to follow everybody's trends. My next tip is if you can work with people in your community, do it. Stop giving your money to faceless brands and corporations. Please, if you can avoid it. I know the economy's tough, guys. I know. I started ordering my stickers from a website I think I mentioned earlier, and the quality wasn't as good as mine are now. But more than that, the prices have gotten astronomical. They were really high back then too. And not to mention, you have to wait so long for shipments to arrive when you're ordering from like a big box supply, like for me with sticker supply or like print supply, you never know how they're going to turn out, and you have to kind of just pray that it's going to work out and not get damaged in transit. If you can find a local print shop, and that's again specific to like stickers and prints, that's what I do. But if you can find a local place that can do the production that you need, like for me, I found a local print shop. It became a relationship instead of an awkward, faceless email experiment. You know what I mean? It's so, I can't explain. Like, I do a lot of things online. I couldn't do what I do right now without the internet, but I will never dismiss the importance of having real life connections in your community and having real relationships with people. For example, like at my print shop, when I needed a batch of prints done right before an event, and I had done so much other printing jobs with them that they like knew my face, knew my style, knew what I was about. If I was ever in a bind, they would help me out because they know me as a real person and I'm a pleasant customer of theirs, and I bring them money and I always say thank you and I'm just kind. So if you show up and foster good relationships with people, it will help you and it will return to you. It's all about karma, baby. I'm very lucky about like where I live and the opportunities and relationships I have been able to have. And I know that's not the case everywhere and for everyone. If you can find somebody on the internet that you can actually have like an online relationship with, like an online print shop that's like a real like person doing it, I really recommend doing that over a big box. I promise you it's going to be a better experience. If you don't have the resources you need for this sort of thing in your city, look into other small businesses online that have like real people working there and they're doing production that you can't do on your own, but they are a small business. That's my tip. My final tip is gratitude and humility always. But also stand your ground with confidence. This is something I'm giving advice on and I am horrible at, but I have gotten better and it's just practice, practice, practice. For example, say someone leaves you a really nice review on Etsy. Leave them a comment saying thank you. Thank you for leaving this nice review. Maybe send them a message saying, hey, thanks for that nice review. Here's a 20% off coupon for your next order. Share their review on your stories. Just be grateful and share your gratitude because it's a relationship you have with these people. I mean, like, it's not just a customer. It's like someone that believes in what you're doing and loves it enough to buy it. So I say, like, if they're giving you good energy, like, give it right back to them. It's just it's a nice thing to do and it makes it like worth it. And it definitely helps the burnout of like, oh, customers are driving me crazy. Like if you don't look at it that way, if you look at it negatively, you're going to burn out. It's hard because sometimes people are not the nicest on the internet because we have a screen in between us. Basically, be gracious. However, my rebuttal to that is if people are walking all over you, leaving a mean, unwarranted review that isn't even true, which happens to me sometimes, instead of just letting them walk all over you and like demand a refund, like I'm talking about unfair situation. I'm not talking about like somebody who was really nice about like, oh, something got lost. I'm talking about the people that are like, screw you and listen to you really mean messages and leaving you 1-star reviews saying that like you didn't even try to help them. That's never the case. If somebody is hurtful to you, stand your ground. What did I say in my notes? I said, don't let Karens walk all over you. For unfair negative reviews, consider leaving a comment on those too, explaining what happened. So then people can see that you don't just ignore when things go wrong, because these things happen. Send a message, like also explaining why the situation happened and just encourage them to treat future creators like real people, because we are real people. We're not just a business. Actually, a lot of us don't even really have an interest in being business owners. We just want to be artists. I have had people take advantage of me over the years because I'm a pretty passive person. And I really, really encourage any people out there starting out, please value your work enough to not let people walk all over you. Stand up for yourself, and you can do it in a gracious, polite way. And it's really hard to do it in a way that doesn't you don't take personally. Oh, trust me, I have the worst time with that, but really try not to. I mean, it helps when you get like people who are kind to balance it out, definitely. At the end of the day, an art business is a service to your customers, not creating the art, but the art business is the service. Okay. So creating the art is its own thing. The business of it is a service. I think we have a hard time with this because of late stage capitalism. It is tough times out here and people are not always the kindest. And also the economy is horrible and we're all really, freaking out and struggling. There's a lot of negative vibes right now. As artists, we are here to spread joy. That's how I see it, at least. When you're a creative person that puts their art in the world, we're here to uplift. Even if your art is dark, like at the end of the day, it inspires something in all of us. We are here to bring joy and inspiration to people. And it is important to value the person on the other side of the mailbox because they are investing in you and your ability to have your creative practice. So I think sometimes we're really jaded here in 2024 about business, and rightfully so. It's kind of terrifying out here. That being said, I don't think you'll see much success in selling art if you're not kind and gracious to the people that are supporting you. Have a mindset that is grateful and welcoming to fans of your work. It will be fruitful if you are open to people who enjoy your work. Business and capitalism is secondary to the creation of art and also the love of your art from your patrons. That is what really matters here. And it's honestly great that there is a way to also make money and survive off of it. But you really have to look at it in a creation first perspective, or else you will get burnt out. I promise. I think that having too much of like a hardcore hustle mindset is a recipe for unsustainability. If you set your intentions in that way, you will have a lot less frustration. And yeah, that's pretty much all the notes I have. I really hope that this video is inspiring and helpful. There is no magic recipe to selling tons of art. I have no idea what that recipe is. Sometimes I feel like it's just luck, but I think it's also those things. It's a lot of things coming together to make it work. And I am so grateful for the 30,000 sales I've had on Etsy in this whole time I've been an Etsy seller, and also my fair wholesalers and everyone who's ever purchased something from me in person. Or through Instagram. I have some really awesome relationships on Instagram of people that collect like my original art, and I just love them. And I appreciate you for watching this. It's kind of a time commitment because I'm very chatty. So say bye, Winston. Winston. Oh, Winston. Come here. Say bye-bye. I hope you have learned a thing or two, or at least have been inspired and reinvigorated to try this art business thing out, because it can be kind of tough out here, but I just want to be a beacon of light and helpful. And if you guys have any specific questions you want me to address, I am very interested in hearing what those questions would be, and I would love to make a follow-up video, maybe with some more specific tips and tricks. This one's pretty general and mostly intention setting, so I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you probably in Italy. Actually, I'm going to Italy in 3 days, guys, and I'm taking a painting and drawing class, investing back into my practice because it's been on hold for a while for me to, work on my technical skills. So I'm very excited to have that opportunity. I feel super grateful. So yeah, I'll see you there. Bye.